Hey, what's up you guys? It's Super Ray Dizzle here. Welcome back to my channel. And in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how I draw portraits using charcoal. And if you don't have access to charcoal, don't sweat it. I have alternatives. And I am going to be using a blending technique where I'm going to be blending the shadows as opposed to layering. So, without further ado, let's begin. So first, you're going to need a pencil of your choice. Doesn't matter if it's regular, mechanical, just whatever you want to use. Next up, you're going to need an eraser. I'm using an eraser pencil, but just a regular eraser will be fine. I'm going to be doing a blending technique, so I'm going to need a blender. If you don't have a blender, you can use your fingers, works just as good. A sharpener, but that goes without saying. And last but not least, a black charcoal pencil. If you don't have access to charcoal, you are more than welcome to use a black colored pencil or alternatively a Prismacolor ebony pencil. And of course, the supplies will be listed down below. Alright, cool. So with that being said, let's begin. So step number 1 for me is always create the outline. When drawing portraits, I always start off with the head shape first. And there's no specific reason as to why I start with the head. It's just kind of comfortable for me. So if there's a different starting point that you feel comfortable with, like starting from the eyes or the nose or wherever, go ahead and do that. And you guys know I take forever when it comes to proportions. So with the power of editing, we are going to fast forward. Ah, there she is. So as you guys can see, I have created the outline of the face. And it doesn't look like much now, but once you guys start adding in shadows and highlights and everything like that, it'll get much better looking. Which leads us to our next point, and that is creating your base layer shadows. So since nothing serious has gone on, pretty much everything that we've created at this point can be reversed or erased or anything like that. This is the perfect opportunity to start adding in your first layer of shadows, which will be the face shadows. And I'm going to create these bad boys using just my regular mechanical pencil. And like most realistic drawing techniques, I'm going to start off with light shadows and build them up layer by layer until finally by the time I'm done, they're going to be pure black. Which is why I use a charcoal pencil, because it gives a really nice deep shadow. But yeah, let's get back to the topic of facial shadows. So I need my facial shadows to be really smooth. And the best way I have found to blend out a pencil to give it a really soft, smooth look is use my fingers. And I know a lot of people don't like to use their fingers. I personally don't mind, but if you are one of the people who don't like to use your fingers, you're more than welcome to use a sponge or a paper towel or just anything like that. It's super important to get your baseline shadows done now because they do require a lot of blending, and blending tends to mess up detail, so it's better to do it now and not mess up anything than do it later and mess up small details that you worked hard on. So now that we got the contour shadows going on, this brings us to our next point. Start building up what will soon become your darkest shadows. Alrighty, so remember earlier when I said we are going to build from light to dark? That's what we're going to start doing now. So all the shadows that I'm working on right now, by the time I'm done, they're pretty much going to be almost pure black by the time I'm done. Because again, building up layer by layer. So for example, I am filling in the eyebrows, which are going to be pure black. I'm filling in the nostrils, which are pure black. The eyelashes, the shadow right underneath the lips, even the lips a little bit. You guys know I like to have a nice transition shade, so that's why I don't right off the bat start with black charcoal. So here we are with our second layer of shadows. They're starting to look pretty good, you know. I'm blending them out so they can match better with the rest of the layers and just kind of making them really soft. But you'll notice that nothing is exactly crisp because it's all blended out. Which brings me to my next point, defining detail. So we got the nice shadows down, but now we need to start adding some details. And with that being said, I'm going to get my mechanical pencil, and you guys know I love the depth you can get with mechanical pencils, also the precision. And I'm just going to start adding little details here and there and kind of blending around the details to soften them. And one thing you'll take note of is that I'm using my Tortillion kind of as a pencil to create the shadows. And basically, I'm doing that because if I use my mechanical pencil, it'll be too dark. So whatever's left on the Tortillion, I can use as kind of like a little shadow creator. And it won't be too dark or too light, just right. It's kind of like at this point, this is where you will start seeing the drawing kind of form into a face rather than just like a blob. And so now that I'm starting to add like these little facial features and making them more lifelike and giving them more depth, it'll also make me see that maybe other areas need shadows. So like the cheek, maybe the forehead needs something else. And I can really start to see what it's missing now that I'm adding like other parts, if that makes sense. I always complicate these things, I'm sorry. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for. Add depth with charcoal. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this right here is where the magic happens. So since we just spent the past few hours making this whole entire thing a transition shade, I'm just going to go straight in with the black since everything else has been blended out and it won't look too weird. So, from my reference, the eyelashes are black, the lips are black, underneath the ear. Basically, all the shadows that you see that I'm coloring now are just pure black. And again, I don't want it to look too harsh, so I'm going to slightly blend out that charcoal to make it more soft in appearance. And of course, whenever you start blending out your charcoal or pencil or whatever, more pigment's going to get spread around, therefore it's going to make it a little bit lighter than the original mark. And so that's pretty much what I'm doing right now is redefining some things, you know, kind of going over some lines, making them look a little bit more crisp. And to be honest, that's pretty much what the rest of the portrait is just me building up shadows, making them crisp, building them up, blending. But the tutorial is not over yet. There's still one last trick up your girl's sleeve, and that is build some shadows using charcoal dust. So what I'm talking about is getting your blender and dipping it into an area that is pure black, and whatever is on the Tortillion, use that to kind of create like a light shadow from the charcoal. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how I like to create midtones, transition shades, and things like that using a really dark pigment like charcoal. So at this point, I'm pretty much done with the face, and I'm just going to do a little bit of touching up for it right now. I might come back later, we'll see. But yeah, I'm going to start working on the hair. So this will lead us to the next point, which is add a pure layer of charcoal to the hair. And this is pretty easy, pretty simple. Since she is a brunette, all I have to do is put in that black and then add highlights. As an artist, you know the struggle of filling out a large area and fully saturate it with just a pencil tip. But there is a trick that I like to do. So here's what I like to do. I like to fill up a big area with the charcoal, as seen here. You know, keeping it simple. And from there, I like to smear it down with my hand. That way it locks into place and spreads that pigment around. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1. And so you guys get the point. I'm going to fast forward to the next step because it's literally just me coloring in the whole space and then smudging. So again, with the power of editing. Ta-da! And it doesn't look like hair. It looks like a weird plastic thing on her head. So this means that we have to blend in the hairline and then add a few little details. And this step is really easy. All I'm doing is getting the Tortillion and I'm flicking from the area that has charcoal to the area that doesn't have charcoal. And this will create like a little streak, and it kind of looks like little baby hairs coming out from the side of her head. It's a super easy way to blend in that hairline, add some little hairs, and just overall make it look a little bit more realistic. And once you're done with that, we are going to start adding highlights to the hair. And adding highlights is another super simple thing to do. All I'm doing is getting my eraser pencil. You don't have to have one. You can just use like the corner of an eraser. And all I'm doing is just erasing little tiny white lines into the hair to imply highlights and individual streaks. And of course, where it's more shiny, that's where you're going to take away more pigment. And where it's less shiny, that's where you're going to just kind of lightly go in there. Next up, I am drawing the ear. Now, I am in the current process of making a whole entire video on how to draw an ear, so I'm not going to touch too deep into it, but all I am doing is like pretty much the exact same thing, starting off with pencil, blending it out, then going in with my charcoal pencil and building up the shadows from there. Alright, cool. So now we are going to work on the bun slash ponytail, and all I'm going to do is put in a heavy layer of black, and again, just add some white highlights using the eraser pencil, and that's pretty much it. Doing black hair is really, really easy. So once I got the hair done, I'm going to start on the rest of her, which will be the clothes and a little bit of the neck, but her neck isn't showing hardly at all. So this will bring me to my next point, which is add clothes with a light gray wash. So before I got to the clothes, I wanted to draw this, like, I don't exactly know what it is. It's like a dark triangle underneath her head. I'm assuming it's some kind of a turtleneck or an extreme heavy shadow because it was pure black in the picture. So I'm just like, whatever, I'll draw it, you know, we'll see how it goes. And now I'm starting on the actual clothes. And making the clothes was a really simple technique, and basically how we did the hair is the exact same way as we're going to do the clothes, except I'm going to do it a lot more lighter handed. So it's kind of the exact same routine, just kind of add in some streaks, blend those bad boys out, and just keep adding streaks and blending until you get the desired color that you like. Well, I shouldn't say color, I guess shade that you like. And yeah, just like that, easy peasy, you guys got this. And one thing I just wanted to say is that in the reference picture that her neck was kind of elongated. So just keep in mind that sometimes pictures can be a little bit deceiving. Okay guys, so let's get ready for our last point, which is, drumroll please, fine tune. So this step is pretty easy. You can even skip it if you want, but I'm just going to add little details of hair here and there just to give it more of a realistic look. I'm going to kind of clean up the sides, make sure there's not a bunch of smudges everywhere. And that's it. Just general cleanup of anything that you think it needs. And that's that. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, here's the final color corrected photo. Alright, here you guys go. I hope you enjoyed this video, maybe learned a little something something. If you guys want to see more of my artwork, you can see my Instagram where I post pretty much everything that I've ever painted or drawn. And of course, there's like my more personal things like my Snapchat and my Twitter. And with that being said, I love you guys and I will see you next video.